Do you ever wonder why God gave the Ten Commandments? Did it have something to do with pizza? How about video games, or maybe school dances? Well, hold on to your sandals because we're about to discover why God gave the Ten Commandments. Once upon a time, many years ago, there was a group of people called the Israelites. They lived in a land called Egypt, and life was not very good for them. They worked long and hard for their food and even had to make bricks without any straw. Yuck. And life was especially tough for a guy named Moses. One day, when Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, ordered him to make more bricks, Moses decided enough was enough. So he and the Israelites did something crazy. They packed up and left Egypt. For 40 days, they wandered around a big, hot, sandy place called the desert. And let me tell you, being in the desert is no piece of cake. You get sunburned, thirsty, and pretty bored after a while. Plus, there's nothing but sand as far as you can see. You could go crazy. But don't worry, because God was with the Israelites the whole time. He sent a big, tall cloud to guide them during the day and a fire at night. This way, they always knew which direction to go. And most importantly, they knew God was with them. But despite all the miracles God performed, the Israelites still complained a lot. "We are hungry. We are thirsty," they cried. But each time they complained, God took care of them. Once he parted the waters so they could cross on dry land. Another time, he made water come out of a rock. And when they were hungry, he sent yummy food called manna from heaven. Wow! Finally, they arrived at a place called Mount Sinai. It was a really big mountain, like the biggest one they had ever seen. At the bottom of the mountain, the Israelites pitched their tents and waited. They wanted to know where God wanted them to go next. One day, God called Moses and said, "Go up the mountain, and I will give you some very important information." So off Moses went. When he reached the top of the mountain, he saw a bush that was on fire, but it wasn't burning up. Suddenly, God said to him, "I am the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I want you to tell the Israelites to leave this place and not to worship any false gods." Then God invited Moses to come closer. He stood on some very fancy sandals, wore some awesome clothes, and even covered his head with a special hat. In fact, Moses had never looked so good. Then God repeated what he had already said. "Tell the Israelites not to worship any false gods. Tell them not to make idols or bow down to them. Do not misuse my name. Keep the Sabbath day holy. Honor your father and mother. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not give false testimony. And do not covet your neighbor's house or anything that belongs to him." These were called the Ten Commandments, and they were super important. In fact, they were so important that God decided to write them down himself. He dipped his finger in some ink and wrote the Ten Commandments onto stone tablets. When he finished, he handed the tablets to Moses and said, "Here you go. Now get out of here before I change my mind and burn the mountain to the ground." Ha ha, just kidding, sort of. Okay, God, sure. Moses climbed back down the mountain and joined the other Israelites. Now, when the people saw how bright Moses' face was, they were afraid to look at him. But Moses covered his face with a special cloth so they wouldn't be scared. Then he shared all 10 commandments with them. The people promised they would follow God's rules and do everything he said. They even shouted, "Yeah, we promise. We'll do it," and everyone felt happy and proud. But you know what? Even though God had given them these super important rules, the Israelites still got into trouble sometimes. For example, when God told them not to put their trust in anyone but him, they started worshiping other gods. Yikes, that didn't make God very happy. But thank goodness he was full of grace and mercy. Instead of getting mad and punishing them right away, he forgave them and reminded them to follow his 10 commandments. The 10 commandments weren't just a bunch of random rules. They were a gift from God to help the Israelites live happy and peaceful lives. And guess what? They weren't just for the Israelites. They're for all of us who want to have a relationship with God. The first four commandments tell us how to treat God. They help us remember that God is the boss and that we should honor and obey Him. The last 6 commandments tell us how to treat other people. They teach us to be kind, respectful, and helpful. You might be thinking, well, duh. Everyone knows you shouldn't steal or lie or hurt people, but let me ask you something. Have you ever seen someone drop their ice cream cone and then another kid picked it up and ate it? What would you do in that situation? Would you tell the truth and say, hey, I think that ice cream cone belongs to Jimmy, even if you didn't see who it belonged to? Or maybe you'd be too busy laughing at how messy the situation was. These commandments can help us decide what to do when no one else is looking. They remind us to always do the right thing, even when no one is watching. Remember, God gave us these rules because He loves us and wants what's best for us. They're not meant to make our lives harder, but to keep us safe, kind, and close to Him. Now, let's talk about that pizza topping debate we talked about earlier. If you were making a pizza with your friends and they wanted to put pineapple on it, even though you didn't like pineapple, would you be okay with that? Why or why not? Well, this is like the 10 Commandments. You have your own likes and dislikes, but your friends have theirs too. The 10 Commandments help us remember to be respectful of other people's feelings and belongings, even if we don't agree with them. So the next time you're faced with a tough choice, remember the 10 Commandments. They can help you choose the right thing to do, even when it's hard. And speaking of tough choices, now it's time for you to make a decision. Will you take a moment to memorize the 10 Commandments? They are a great reminder of how to live a good and happy life. As you repeat them, think about how you can apply them to your everyday life. You may be wondering, how can I learn more about God and His amazing stories? Well, just like the Israelites who followed God's laws, we can also follow His teachings to live happier and better lives. The Bible tells us that God created the world and everything in it. He loves us so much that He sent His Son, Jesus, to show us how to live and to forgive us for our mistakes. By reading the Bible and following its teachings, we can learn how to be kind, honest, and loving towards others. We can also ask God for help and guidance when we face challenges or make mistakes. Just like the Israelites who received the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai, we can also receive God's love and forgiveness. All we need to do is believe in Jesus and follow His teachings. And remember, we're not alone in this journey. There are many people who believe in God and His Word and are ready to help us along the way. Together, we can learn to live according to God's plan and bring positivity into the world.